Right, first slide. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking a trisk on staying. This is kind of advertised as, do we take enough risks? Which I think is a really good way of putting it. I want to talk about risks, but not necessarily in, a really, informative way, to be honest. If you kind of read Wired or books or Freakonomics, all those kinds of things, Dan Ariely, you might have seen discussion about risk already. There's some very good books about how we as humans perceive risk and take risk and value risks, and the BBC as well, and I recommend looking at it. They're trying to cover the largest study in the UK on risk by asking you to fill in questions. Those are all very informed, educated, evidence-based assessments of risks. This is none of those. So my name is Trish. I'm here to talk about risks, tell you a little bit about myself. I am an adventurer. I like to think of myself as doing adventures, finding stories afterwards. I was raised by hippies, or ex-hippies, really. My teenage rebellion, what do you rebel against if everything is permitted, really? So my teenage rebellion was Christianity. And this kind of effect carried through me my whole life, which meant that actually life for me was ever so slightly different to other people I went to school with and so on. They were into football. I was watching Fred Astaire films. Everything was ever so slightly different for me. It was otherwise a normal childhood. But I was very encouraged to try new things. My parents wanted me to try new things, do things differently. But I'm not saying that, if someone said, well, Trish, did you take the train into town today? I go, no, I skied. In a cat suit. No, I am a small adventurer, This is all about doing those small things. Every single day we are faced with choices of what we do. And the question is, do you always do the same thing you've always done? Or do every now and then you go, actually, I've never had that flavour of crisp. So I'm going to try that. And it's all about those small adventures. That's what this is actually about. So hashtag Trisk, as it's been invented, is a hashtag. It's nothing more than that. It's not an organisation. It's not a company. I'm not trying to sell you anything. You will not get a daily email offering you special offers from partners, which you might be interested in. Not yet, anyway. But it's also a social media campaign. It's about people participating with each other around their trisks. That's what I'm trying to do with Trisk. And it can belong to anyone. It's a hashtag. It's on Twitter. Anybody can take part. And at this point, I would like to warn you all to get your phone out and fire up your Twitter app, because you will be sending a tweet at the end of this. So please get ready. It's coming, right? So Trisk, is the hashtag Trisk, so I've defined it as a trisk is a risk that Trish would take. It rolls off the tongue really easily, doesn't it? It's great. For anyone who thinks this is slightly egotistical, you're right. But let's face it, I'm not here to talk about a jonk, or a Steve, or or a Tarquest. It's a trisk. Finally, the name my mother gave me has been worth something. So a trisk is what we've got. So what is it? Well, just like all of the best ideas, it was formed in a pub over a drunken conversation. All the best ideas come there. But the essence of it is about trying new things. So essentially, that's what I'm here today. I'm here to encourage you to take a trisk and try new things for the first time. Why? Well, this is where it gets a bit serious. Get ready. Well, personally, I think personal is the growth industry of the future. I think talking about how we develop and how we change and how we prepare for the new society that we face every single day, I think that's kind of a bit of a growth industry in the world. The world is changing extremely fast. The other day, I was thinking about my job, and I said to someone, wow, I was sending PR releases out before Twitter existed. Twitter's only been around for a number of years, but think about how ingrained in our culture it is, because society's changing very fast, and changing with it is going to be very important. But I also think the language of risk needs to change. Good, bad, success, failure, on, offs. What is the gradation of that? There is no gradation of that. What about small risks that allow us to change slightly with things? So I think the language needs to change. But I think it's also really important to think about the disassociation of risk from opportunity. If I was the grandson of the 7th Earl of Winterbourne, I might be much more willing to put lots of money into a new business venture, because if it goes bust, it doesn't matter. Whereas if I'm born in a council house in Walton, the opportunity is not quite there to the same degree. So how can we still have risk and take risks when we don't have the same opportunity spread amongst us? That was the serious bit. Right, so what have I done? Because quite frankly, I can't stand here without encouraging you to do stuff without kind of giving you some evidence of what I've done. Adam Rickman, don't know if you know or not, he's the host of Man vs. Food on Dave. He travels around American cities and takes on these challenges to eat as much food as possible in these restaurants, right? There you go. There you go. No, I think he's quite a good-looking chap, right? Okay, good-looking chap. He has a TV show about how much food he can eat. This man is my God, right? Handsome-looking fella. So, you know, I look at him and I think, well, maybe because, in case you couldn't guess, I quite like my food as well. So I thought, well, maybe there are lessons I can learn here about how I dress and my styles and so on. So, because I've actually got quite, kind of typically over history, I've got a quite kind of uptight professional corporate PR type look, So I thought, well, I need to change, I'm going to try some things. I'm going to grow my hair out. I'm going to wear sideburns. I'm going to wear slightly different clothes. And that's what I ended up as. It's a good point here to say that not all risks work. But, I went with the change, and I'm kind of living all the better for it. But another important point here, how many of you have ever said to yourself, I'm going to change the way I look? Fashions change, different clothes come in the shops, we wear slightly different things, our taste in colours change. But have you ever sat down and said, no, actually, I want to reboot myself, I want to re-image the way, what my look is and how I change? Well, why don't we do more of that? Because it's actually surprisingly easy and quite a lot of fun, and it does help if you're drunk. So what else have I done? A little bit more worthwhile this. Last summer, I just signed up for a course. Workers' Educational Association, very good organisation. I always recommend you having a look at them. They were running a radio course based at 7 Waves Radio, 92.1 FM, over on the Wirral. I did the course. I just thought, why not? Did the course. I now have a radio show every Thursday night. That's actually my birthday show. I had friends in the studio. But, some people in this room have been on it. Some of us have agreed to be on it, But who knows where that could take my life? My career path could change completely just because on a whim I thought, well, do you know what? That course is free. I'll just go. I'll just go and see what happens. My life is on a journey in radio, which I just, as short a while as a year ago, I just didn't know existed. So it's just kind of a sign of the power these small risks can take. But it's really important to say this is not a midlife crisis. Really, and look, here's a chart to prove it. I have changed my hairstyle, I have done my youthful clothing, I have grown a bit of facial hair, but I am not learning to ride a motorbike, and I haven't engaged in any inappropriate dating. I've got that to look forward to, apparently. So, but this is not a midlife crisis. But in talking about midlife crisis, I thought, well, hang on, let's have a look. Because what is a midlife crisis if it's not just a change? So I talked to Google. And here are some kind of ideas of what a midlife crisis is. Anyone here willing to admit they've gone through a midlife crisis? Hey, 1, 2? At least 2. Excellent. Oh, and Martin's kind of going, three midlife crises. Well, won't bother saying that. So I had a look at Wikipedia, and as you know, Wikipedia, everything has to be evidence. You have to refer everything to a superior authority. It's very factual, and that's the page on midlife crisis. But then, well, what's that box in the corner there? Insecurities go so far as to affixing the badge of an expensive sports car to a cheaper one. Where's the evidence for that? Seriously, it's just kind of like someone just went, oh, well, do you know what? They probably try and make their car look newer, don't they? Sorry, I'm popping the microphone here, aren't I? I'll drag this down, see if I can. In the middle of a website which is supposed to be evidenced and factually based, even stuff about change sneaks in. People kind of put in their own perceptions onto what change is worth. And if you keep going along these lines, and I personally believe that any Google search where 99% of the results are actually self-help websites is ripe for a new opportunity. But so here we go. Here's another one. Symptoms of midlife crisis. There's tons of them. There are over 33 of them. Some of them are quite funny, but so this is just the last one now. Recently experiencing something extremely stressful, fair enough. Stress can trigger. Some examples include changing jobs, fair enough. Divorce, fair enough. Death of someone close, fair enough. Chemical toxic exposure upon the body. I think we finally solved the answers of the universe that Spider-Man was just going through a midlife crisis, you know? But anyway, this is how the web, or Google or whoever, talks about change around midlife crisis. Let's go one step further. Put into Google the words taking risks. Number 3 search result will say, another thing to realize, you're always taking risks in life. It's true. You go on a plane, you have a 1 in 500,000 chance of dying. Across the street, 1 in 1 million chance of getting hit by a car. And if you stand around, there's a 1 in 1 billion chance of a bullet will randomly hit you. The 4th result on Google. This is the world of white water, where we have to change to survive. The very act of change increases the risk that we won't survive. And the 5th one, living at risk. I mean, you know, fucking hell. Risk equals death. You know, might as well be the way they talk about it. But this is the way it's talked about. Risk is dangerous. Risk is big. You know, risk is like something huge. Well, I disagree. I think we need to be talking more about small risks. Trisk is small. Small changes have big differences. Is that 11 seconds or 11 minutes? Minutes, okay, fine, cool. So I think we need to change the paradigm of risk. I genuinely believe we need to talk more about risk being different to the way we think of it at the moment. I think it has to be more accessible. It has to be something we think about doing every single day. It has to be a lot less expensive. We have to think about it that changing your flavour of crisp packet is no more or less costly than buying the one you've always bought. But if we kind of take those steps towards making small changes in our life, it can be more educational. And in a world that's changing, we're competing with China and India and so on. They're always telling us, you know, we have a real problem in our society in facing the challenges of what we have in our economy today. And I think taking risks and learning things is a good thing. And it's a lot more beneficial than the sense that to do anything out of the norm, to change your behavior in any way, is a dangerous or deadly thing to do. So what is trisky, not risky, you know? Small versus big, personal versus corporate. It's about you, not about companies or setting up businesses. Enjoyable versus scary. You can have fun, everyone, but also cheap versus expensive. And these are the key aspects of trisk as opposed to taking risks. And it all comes down to the biggest transformational change for the least amount of effort. What can you do today that actually requires very little effort, but is going to open up a whole new world to you? It's going to open the path of your life into a completely different direction. What is the thing you can do which would require the least amount of effort? And that's what I'd like you to do right now. I'd like you to open your Twitter accounts or whatever. I'd like you to write #Trisk and just say something you're going to do. And it could be as simple as, I'm going to watch a foreign movie, because I always avoid foreign movies because I don't like subtitles. You know? It could be, I am going to eat Indian food because I've never had spicy food. Why not? You know, do you see what I mean? It's just kind of, get on there, #Trisk, put down a very small thing you're going to try. Try something for the very first time. That's the point. So I'm going to leave you just with this thought. Mami la pitana pai, right? Okay. It's a word from the dead language of Tierra del Fuego. I can say that. And it means it's a look shared by two people, each wishing that the other will offer something that they both desire but are unwilling to suggest or offer themselves. It's the two shy lovers where neither one will ask the other one out on a date, or two world leaders who, want to move away from the brink of world destruction, but, neither can, wants to suffer the loss of pride in doing so. But just imagine the difference if they'd taken a trisk. We could avert world disaster, people, by taking a trisk. And that's the point. That's the end of mine. Thanks very much.